Welcome to Soul Ties Karmic Recall with David Dimitri. Edutainment, expression for liberation, and all you vibrating higher consciousness. Benevolence, it's me, David Dimitri. We're so grateful for you and the energies that you emanate. Know that you have created this production, Soul Ties Karmic Recall. The look in the world through a metaphysical, even sometimes quantum physical view is important. To look beneath the surface and to see truths that others can't and to reveal them to them. That's a duty. That's an obligation at times. And some people live for that. And we honor them. So we want to honor this gentleman, this real American hero, who has proven, whether he's acknowledged or not, that he is that real image of a United States American hero through service, not only military, but no, actually saving life in the military. Not only that, he dealt with bringing justice in the legal sense in the courts in the military area, on the federal, in dangerous, complicated matters where his life was on the line. We're looking back from the 60s to here, to 2015, through this gentleman, through this living, perpetual history, walking and speaking, still here to bring to you a bridge that you can, he's bridging the gap from not only higher level secret information, but from age groups from the 60s all the way up to 2015. This gentleman wrote and authored the book American Heart of Darkness, and also is the host speaker of the show on which can be accessed on Blog Talk Radio. American Heart of Darkness, his book and his show. His legacy is awesome. This gentleman's name is Robert Kirconnell, and we want to show him some honor and respect and to give him the time to bridge the gap, to bring you information you didn't know, to help you to be a better acceptor of truth and a better, more informed decision maker in this world that you live in today. So Robert, won't you give the people some of your energy?
Well, thanks. And you came closer than most do on that name. It's Kirconnell. It's
Kirconnell.
Yeah, I got my money's worth on that one.
What culture is that from?
It came from Scotland.
Oh wow, I like it. This is the last king of Scotland right here, guys.
The only thing handy about it is that everybody is related worldwide with that name.
All right.
And most are in South America, the Caribbean.
Right. I understand the history of Scotland and the Irish over in the Caribbean. I know that person.
A Scottish sailor that was, ship was sunk off of Cuba.
Yeah.
He swam ashore.
Okay.
So I've got relatives in Cuba
wow.
all over the place.
Well, no wonder you're so heroical. Like you have relatives that did heroic things.
Well, I don't, there's none of them left in Scotland. They all got killed. But the only ones living now are the ones who went to the New World.
Is it?
Yeah. The name doesn't exist anymore in Scotland.
Well,
but thanks for that introduction. I'm going to have to try and live up to this now,
Okay, well.
But I wrote the book American Heart of Darkness, and what motivated me to write that was mostly Vietnam War, and I saw things that when we grow up, we're in these courses and everything, 7th and 8th grade, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and all these great guys that are on that Mount Rushmore, but I saw a part of America. I saw what America said it was doing in Vietnam. Right. That was
the public
180 degrees from what it was, from what was really happening.
Wow.
It was drug trading going on, the agencies of our own government.
So what you're saying is the image that the media and the education system was saying the purpose of America is at the time. This is in the 1960s, everyone. The image was not lived up to.
No, we're steeped in this life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
Vietnam, I didn't see life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness.
Okay, wow.
And
What'd you
it wasn't
see?
because we were in a war. You know, I saw just total corruption. I saw government agencies that are involved in the drug trade. I saw it go as far as to take drugs into the United States in the bodies of killed in action out of Vietnam. I worked a part of that case, a logistics part of that case, and that was not the Godfather doing that. That
Right.
was not somebody with a mustache from Sicily or Pablo Escobar.
Right.
All these, you know, these people that they say are the kingpins of the, no, you know, when
Yeah.
you're talking about large fractions of $1 trillion a year in profit,
Right.
I guarantee you that it's not somebody from the streets in Venezuela or anybody else that's running that.
Yeah.
It's just people in pinstripe blue suits, you know, that are probably around $1,000.
Oh, wow. Dang.
You know,
From America.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Part of a intelligence
Yeah.
community, huh?
Yeah, we talk all this stuff about Mexico. We talk on and on about, you know, those drugs are coming here.
Right.
70% of the world's illegal drug trade comes in the United States.
70% of the world's.
And they're searching, you know, your spare tire when you come across from the border from Mexico or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of, we're talking hundreds of tons of pure cocaine,
Mhm.
heroin coming into this country. It's not coming in somebody's spare tire. It's not coming in where they're searching.
Right.
The plane that's going over there, or the truck that has a seal on it under the NAFTA agreement that you can't open.
Right.
You know, and it can
He
go all the way to Canada.
He got
Yeah.
it goes Pablo Escobar's
Yeah.
cocaine was coming over in the 70s and the 80s. Now it has El Chapo's cocaine coming over.
Yeah, it's all a big front. There's, and I got to looking, and I looked at things differently after I worked that case.
Which
Because
case
it's-
was this? Let's make it clear.
Well,
and what
sometimes
years
it's
were
called the
this?
body bag case.
The body bag case.
You know, and this
What
was
year?
the end of 1972, 73. Nobody was caught on this case.
Okay.
This was, when I worked it was in Okinawa, Kadena Air Base, Okinawa. C-5 was killed in action on there. Plane broke. The bodies were taken off. When we loaded the plane up, the couriers for it had disappeared for whatever reason. And, you know,
Right.
I think it was probably because the plane was on the ground more than 24 hours, and then you got Japanese customs and immigrations and all these people involved.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was an in-transit aircraft, they would not be involved. And so
Right.
I think these guys spooked, but you know, we don't know.
Right.
But at any rate, what they did is they got out of there. And when you're looking for couriers for human remains and you can't find them,
Mm.
something's not right.
Oh, well, dang.
And,
So you guys were
Japanese-
looking at actual caskets. And so,
Well, Japanese
what-
customs actually were the ones that looked in the caskets.
So
and
what
found them.
what he's saying, everyone, is he worked the case of which the movie American Gangster in the BET American Gangster series focused on. And for you, what they focused on was a man named Frank Lucas, a gangster named Frank Lucas. And he was given credit for, in the movies and on this television series I just mentioned, Frank Lucas was given credit for coming up with the idea of putting the heroin in the caskets of the cadavers of or the bodies of the soldiers that were American soldiers who were killed in Vietnam. This gentleman, Mr. Kirconnell, Robert Kirconnell, worked that case with a military agency. He was one of the investigators of that case. He's saying it was in Okinawa, was one of the drop-off places. They would ship the bodies not just straight directly to the United States, but they would ship them over to Okinawa, Japan, and they would go through customs and they would check those bodies. And what he just said is that a lot of those caskets had no bodies in them. So what do you think happened at that point? Stay tuned. Time for an advert break. Prime Up Developmentals and the Metaphysical Life Coaching and Guidance Counseling video tutorial series, plus Soul Ties Karmic Recall book series at soultieskarmicrecall.com. Now back to the STKR show.
But what I think happened was the whole thing, even when the Japanese got covered up. And there was one guy that was caught, that was a courier, that was caught in the States. And he went to trial in Baltimore, Maryland. The attorney that prosecuted, the federal prosecutor's name is Michael Marr, who we sent all documentation we had on this guy's travel into Okinawa anyway. We sent it registered mail to the court and to Michael Marr, who never got the stuff. The guy that they caught was only convicted of wearing a uniform and traveling on a military aircraft and was not entitled. The guy was not even in the Army. He was supposed to be an Army courier. And he had an ID card just as pretty as you could please, orders, all this stuff. You know, this is why I say this.
He was not even in the Army, but he had an Army ID card. He had a suit.
Yeah, salute for days.
Wow.
You know, you cut your hand on the crease of his pants.
Wow.
Never been in the Army.
Wow.
He had a Master Sergeant's uniform on.
So he was an agent there that more than likely was part of heroin distribution coming out of Vietnam and Cambodia.
His name is Thomas Edward Sutherland. When it went to court, in fact, he's still around.
Okay.
He got convicted of other drug offenses.
Oh,
he
wow.
never got convicted of anything that had to do with drugs.
Oh, wow.
When this thing happened.
Mm.
But it opened up the larger question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there were obviously, you know, it was Air America, the CIA's airline, which has an interesting history that goes back to the Flying Tigers and General Chenault.
Yeah.
And he had a logistics airline that was called Civil Air Transport. And when he didn't need it anymore, he sold it. The CIA bought that. And that became Air America.
Oh, wow.
And what they were doing was...
And that's the man you just said.
Yeah, yeah. And what they were doing was they were flying in, you know, guns to fight the communist Chinese, and this was the nationalist Chinese.
They were flying into Vietnam.
This was in China. This is before Vietnam. This is where the Vietnam War came from.
Oh, wow.
It goes back to China.
Oh, wow.
And the Kuomintang and fighting the communists, and so what that airline was doing, Civil Air Transport, supposedly, you know, on the surface, it was flying in parts for these Flying Tigers and all that to fight the communists. But really what they were doing, they were flying in guns and some food and things like that into these drug dealers that were the nationalist Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge drug cartel.
Right.
I mean, most of the world's heroin came out of there. Most of the world's opium came out of there.
Wow.
Southern China.
Wow. And southern China is connected to Vietnam and Cambodia.
Yeah. And that was the formula. You fight the communists, we'll take your drugs to market.
Right.
And this was coming into the United States, and this was Civil Air Transport, largest commercial
owned by the CIA
in the world. Yeah, it was sold to the CIA
by the gentleman. What's his name again?
General Chenault.
Claire
Chenault.
Claire.
You'll see these movies, these old movies with the tiger teeth and all that. You've seen them, and these guys are all heroes, and they probably were. But the undercurrent was drugs. Drugs and war that go together, because when you got a war, you can...
The dark market.
Yeah.
Human trafficking,
you start
anything.
Classifying stuff,
Any
national
kind of
security. You can bring a plane in the United States and say this is a CIA plane, and nobody can search it, and nobody's going to do it. Customs not going to touch this. This is how these... You know, it wasn't the only way it was coming.
So all this was before the Vietnam War, which led to the Vietnam War.
Yes. Yeah, that's the whole history of it.
So the Vietnam War was not only on, they will claim, the government and intelligence community in the United States of America and France will claim that the Vietnam War was a geographical positioning to fight communism, but obviously there was a whole lot more in stake, billions of dollars at stake in regards to heroin.
So over 90% of the world's
heroin. There was a lot of human trafficking going on also.
Yeah, and prostitution,
yes,
all kinds
slaves.
of nasty stuff. It's over 90% of the world's heroin was coming out of Southeast Asia during Vietnam. Control of that is control of The estimates vary, but I figure it approaches $1 trillion a year. This is a lot of money. You start taking $1 bills and stack them on top of each other, you can get pretty close to the moon by the time you get done with $1 trillion. Ooh, that's a lot of money when you see it in there.
Right.
And all of this drug money and everything.
How did it lead to the Vietnam War? How does that lead to the Vietnam War? I would like
it was mainly to a large part was control of that heroin and opium.
So in Vietnam, there's
the communists took over China.
Billions of dollars worth of heroin being grown in Vietnam, Cambodia.
Yeah. Hundreds of billions. Hundreds of billions and hundreds of tons of pure heroin.
So it could be, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to make a statement, but it can be taken as a question and you can answer for me and the people. It could be that they strategically wanted Vietnam to counteract China, who was controlling the heroin out of Vietnam. So to counteract that heroin, the United States of America got France out the way, who dropped the ball in Vietnam, British, who already had control of Hong Kong, and so it could be that the United States of America came in and said, we're going to take this heroin from China. Is there any credence to that idea?
There could very well be. The Korean War itself was these two proxy, the nationalist Chinese and the communist Chinese
right.
fighting each other through proxies.
Right.
And through the United States of America was the nationalist Chinese. We actually, there were guys, I didn't directly see them, but I knew guys that said, look, there are Chinese fighters in Vietnam. And I said, how do you know? He says, well, how many Vietnamese don't speak Vietnamese?
Right.
There were whole divisions
of Chinese
of these nationalist Chinese
right.
that were in Laos and Cambodia and
right. Can you get that book, the Mao book, please, and bring it to me? I have a book on Mao. Yeah. My mom had me studying leaders when I was a child. She wanted me to be a power person, a political power person. That's what she wanted from me. She wanted me to be rich and famous and all that. She wanted me to be powerful and famous. This is the type of person my mom is. Yeah. She's from Watts, 103rd and Annex. There were Black Panthers and all this. Yeah. But that was her angle in it, that we need power, a human individual. Yeah. Not our people and all that, but my son. Yeah. And she raised me specifically of all her sons to be that. And so I want to show you all this book and how Mao, this gentleman Mao, in this book it explains with facts of how Mao invested with Ho Chi Minh. And Ho Chi Minh's the general, the president of the North Vietnam regime, which fought the United States of America. But what people need to know is that Mao, as this gentleman was just telling us, this statesman was just telling us that Mao gave 1 million troops, if not more than 1 million troops, to the North Vietnam struggle against the French and United States, against what is now known as NATO. So you had so many Chinese there. You're in the middle of Asia, so there was more than just Vietnamese people fighting against all those thousands, hundreds of thousands of American troops. Putting those American troops there, putting them there to be slaughtered. The Chinese already suffered historically to the British exploiting the heroin use and the heroin distribution and taking over China through that means. So when the United States came to do it, China was already experienced. Vietnam and Cambodia was already experienced. Thank you for watching the Soul Ties Karmic Recall episodes. This in-depth interview with Robert Kirconnell will continue. So tune in for part 2 of the interview. And remember, check for more on YouTube at Soul Ties Karmic Recall, and go to SoulTiesKarmicRecall.com for the book series and MLCGC video tutorials.